real quick, babe, before we dive into the juiciness that is today's episode, I just want to let you know that the first live training I have done in over 4 years kicked off today. So if you missed today, that's 100% okay because I've got you covered. I got you, girl. I want you to go over to amyvanmeal.com/boss. You'll register for the all access page so you can catch the replay of today. We are going again tomorrow and Friday. It's a juicy 3-day live training. I'm so excited to bring it to you. We are breaking down what money is, what money is not. We're going to talk about some juicy things like responsibility and releasing resistance, which is huge. And I'm going to show you how that you can rewire your brain for abundance in like the most effortless and easy way. If that sounds super good and juicy to you, then head on over, grab that link. I've got it in the show notes for you, of course, and sign on to that all access page so you can catch up on today's training and then join me live tomorrow and Friday. I can't wait to see you. Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast. I'm super excited that you're here with me today. It is a gorgeous sunny day here in beautiful Calgary, Alberta. We are coming up close to Canada Day, which is very exciting for my American listeners. That is like our version of your Independence Day. It's a few days before yours. We celebrate on July 1st. I know July 4th is the big day for our neighbors to the south. But yeah, we're heading out to my husband's family has a cabin. So we're going to be heading out to the cabin this weekend. I just checked the weather forecast like 30 minutes ago, and like Saturday looks super great, but like Sunday, Monday look kind of sketchy, which is actually very common for the July long weekend. It tends to kind of be that way. So we'll see what we end up with when we get there. I can't change the weather. So whatever it's going to be is just going to be. And if it's like cold and rainy and crappy, well, then we just come home a little bit earlier, which is also fine. Yeah, I'm super excited. I am recording this the day before I am kicking off my first live training in, oh my goodness, I'm sure it's been more than 4 years. I know for sure it's been 4 years, but I think it's been longer than that. So I have been deep in creation mode, and if you caught the reel that I posted yesterday on Instagram, then this would be yesterday in terms of like if you're listening to this podcast episode the day that it drops. I shared that like it's such a juicy time to be in creation. Like I really love creating content, but oh my goodness, there is something different about creating content for a live training than creating content for like even the podcast or in particular like the programs that I've written in the past. Like my masterclass on joy and the Building Fempires program, which is all about money transformation. I just have like been really wrestling with doubts and uncertainty as I've been leaning into this training. And if I wasn't like, if I was writing my notes on a notepad as opposed to writing it on my computer, there would be many, many like crumpled up pieces of paper on the floor from all the rewrites and changes and adjustments that I've made Oh my goodness. What I am trying to say is not like, woe is me. I'm working really hard for you here. What I am saying is I care so deeply about this training. I know that it's free. I care deeply about all of my training, all the content that I put out. I want to make sure that it's really high quality for you all the time. But yeah, the live training container is a slightly different way because of course it's like I'm literally going to be sharing information on an Instagram live. If you're following me on Instagram, then you will likely get the notification when I go live at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard. You may have joined me. If you are joining me today, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that it was great, and I'm really excited about the next 2 days. And if you have missed all of it, then, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, there's still time to catch the replay. So you can register for the all access page, which will get you, it will, first of all, I'll send you some notifications to help remind you to come join me live because there's something about just like being live together that's really juicy. It's a really great energy to be in. But I also understand that not everybody is available at like 10 a.m. Mountain Standard on a Wednesday, Thursday, and a Friday. So the replay page is your go-to place. All the recordings are going to be uploaded every single day. So by the time this podcast, I don't know exactly what time this podcast is dropping while I'm talking into the microphone recording it for you, but I suspect by the time this podcast is coming out, it will be very shortly afterwards that day one replay is going to be posted on the page. Plus, I have like a super fun bonus in the all access page for you. It is based off of a tool that I have used like a lot over my life to manifest some really cool things, including 2 promotions. Very, very cool. So that sweet little bonus is waiting on the all access page for you. And I have that link in the show notes, amyvanmeel.com/boss. But of course, it's super easy to just click the link in the show notes. Ah, got you. Okay, and with that, today is our last of the 4-part series on investing. Oh my goodness, I hope that you have been learning so much from this series. I trust that I've made it as easy to understand as possible. My intent is, of course, to make this super simple and approachable for you, for women in particular, but this is not just for women. For women in particular, though, we really are not we're not educated about money in the best way, which is part of why I really wanted to do the live training. It's really focused for women and money in particular. But like our experience with money is different. And the stories, oh my goodness, the stories that I have heard over the years from women who are professionally successful, very like confident, clear women, and yet are just thwarted when it comes to investing. Like it just makes my toes curl all the time. So I really wanted to make investing really, really approachable for you because I promise it is not. It's not as scary and as hard and as complicated and convoluted as some professionals might want you to be. So today's episode is going to be doing some myth busting. We're going to be chatting about a few common misconceptions about investing. We're going to break them down. Of course, so this one's going to be a little bit different. So whereas the last 3 episodes was really kind of like explaining investing and giving you a little bit of homework to start building your exposure and your knowledge and your comfort with investing. Today is literally just going to be me sharing some common things that I often hear when the topic of investing comes up and my take on those misconceptions. And I guarantee you that they're all misconceptions because, well, I just do. I've learned enough over the years, and I've had enough conversations, and I've done enough learning to go, yeah, none of these are true, but people believe them as if they are true, and it's getting in the way. It's stopping folks, could be good folks just like you or someone that you know, but it's stopping folks from actually like getting in the game and following their own power. And I'm just 100% not okay with that. So we're going to dive into some misconceptions. I think I have 7 for you today. I'm pretty excited. And they're in no particular order. So it's not like the first one is more important than the last one is. There is zero order in terms of how I'm diving into these misconceptions. So let's just get right into it. So the first misconception is when share prices fall, I'm losing money. Now, this is one that I hear a lot. I hear it from folks who are seasoned investors, which always makes me laugh because I'm like, well, you know better. The idea basically being, so you've actually bought something and something is happening. It doesn't matter what's happening because there could be a billion different things that happen when it comes to the stock market. It could be that there was a news article that came out that was a little bit unfavorable about the company that you invested in. And so it's causing stock prices to fall. Like it literally could be something as simple and as kind of silly as that. It could also be something much bigger, like a recession or a market correction. I do want to be very clear. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit later again, but market corrections are actually very normal, and I'd say they're probably integral to the health of the stock market. So a market correction, and notice the language that is used. That's not my language. That is the language that is used to describe by the financial industry to describe what happens when, for example, in 2008, when the stock market crashed, right? The headlines will always say it's crashing, it's all going sideways, but it's actually a correction. So while since the history of the stock market beginning, um, the stock market has always gained. It has consistently gained. It's not gained every single day, and it's not gained all the time, over and over and over and over, but it has consistently over time gained. If you actually look at pick any, I'm sure there's tables out there. I'm really not interested in finding the tables, but if you just look at, I would guess even the S&P 500, but anything that shows sort of the history of the stock market. So we're not talking about one particular stock. We're talking about the stock market as a whole, right? So that does mean that it includes all of the companies that have historically been traded on the market, which also of note includes companies that have gone belly up. So I want that to be very clear to you. This is not just sort of Pollyanna view of well, it's always going up. No, the average includes companies that have failed. But since the history of the stock market, it has always gone up. So when share prices fall, the really good thing to remember is it will go back up. It's not to say that the price of your particular share will go up. So, in the early 2000s, I was still barely coming out of high school, so I wasn't thinking about investing or anything like that. But I do remember I worked in tech for a number of years. A lot of people talking about the dot-com bubble that happened at the very early turn of the century, which, oh my God, makes me feel so old to say turn of the century. It's part of my history of being alive on the planet. But the dot-com bubble, yes, there were companies that just went bust overnight and they didn't come back 100%. But on the whole, the stock market on the whole has continued to go up. So what I want you to take away here is if you have done even a little bit of your homework, right? The last 3 days or last 3 series episodes, oh my goodness, we've talked about how to build your experience and knowledge and intentionally choose the stock or the fund that you're going to invest in, right? So I almost said if you did it right, and I don't want to say that, but if you sort of follow it along, I suppose, what I had shared, then there's a good chance that you have or are about to invest in something that you're familiar with. You don't have to know the company's financials inside and out, right? I know Warren Buffett does that. I know all the sort of, I shouldn't say all, but I'm sure there's a lot of investment bros on the Wall Streets that will read in the financials. You don't need to go into the financials. You just kind of need to know enough about the company, enough about what they're doing, enough about where they're going. And like Apple's a really great example because we're all familiar with Apple. Whether or not you have Apple products, you know about Apple. And Apple has been around for a while and it's weathered some dips. There's a lot of talk about the difference of having Steve Jobs come back and how Apple was kind of going sideways for a while, but he came back and course corrected the company and share prices began increasing again. So the really important thing to hear is this. This is what I want you to really take away on this misconception. You are not losing money when share prices fall. That is again, this is in the broader sense. We're not talking about a specific stock. That is simply an activity that's happening on the stock market. It's kind of like you're not losing your grass in the fall when it all turns brown and gets covered by snow, right? It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. So you're not losing money when the prices fall. You only lose money if you sell at a loss. I want you to really understand that. The same thing, the inverse is also true, that you're not gaining money if prices are going up. You only gain money if you sell at a profit. So that's really good to understand about investing because I think it will help reduce like the stress and emotional roller coaster that investing sometimes can be. It is so I don't actually remember when I started investing. It's been a while now, and the market has been undergoing a bit of a correction. Even though nobody wants to talk about it, which is just my favorite. I'm like, okay, already. Like, if we could just move on, that would be great. So if I look at my portfolio right now, for example, it's a great example of precisely what not to do, assuming that I took the action of selling. So I want you to really understand that. I did all my research. I invested at a time that I had free capital in order to do so. So I made my choices. I bought my stocks. I bought my funds. I was all excited. Said, look at me. Here I am. And like, I think within 6 months, 12 months, we started seeing a correction. So I have had the joy of watching my portfolio basically drop in half for like the last few years. And because there's been a lot of uncertainty that has happened since I made those purchases, the overall market has not recovered to the degree that I had. So essentially what happened, here's essentially what happened. I bought when prices were really strong, meaning prices were high. Prices have fallen and have not yet recovered. I am not losing money because I haven't pulled the capital out of those stocks. You only lose it if you sell, and you only gain it if you sell. This is why being very clear and intentional with your investments and understanding ahead of time, like what for example, your investment window is, your timeline, all those things. I go into this much more deeply inside the Building Vampires program, which FYI is opening for enrollment on Friday. So if you're curious and you really want to build your money knowledge, while also like completely shifting beliefs so you can actually be abundant as fuck and like keep that going, right? Enrollment opens on Friday. So mark the date on your calendar. Investments is one of the financial tools that we dive into more deeply. And we talked a little bit about financial tools in the training earlier today. But until I lost my train of thought here for a second. And if I know what my investment window is, so all of the investments that I made, those are long-term investments for me. So it's not capital that I needed to have in the next, say, 1 to 5 years. It's just intended that instead of sitting in a savings account, earning maybe 0.02%, if I'm lucky, I feel like, it is in an investment account. And again, because the stock market has consistently over time gone up, I mean, the chances are exceedingly good that those prices are going to go up. So First misconception, busted. When share prices fall, you're losing money. You are absolutely not losing money. You are only losing it if you sell at a loss. So, unless I'm going to say this carefully, unless like you're pretty sure the company is like really going bust, then yeah, maybe it's worth selling, even if it does mean that you actualize a loss. As you get a little bit more brave and courageous in your investing journey, you might try doing some like investing in some IPOs or some riskier stocks. But like we're talking, that could be quite a ways down the road, right? So yeah, so you're only losing money if you sell at a loss. And if you aren't, if you're holding your money, if you're holding, let me say that differently. If you're holding your investment, then in theory, following the historical average of the stock market, it should recover and go back up. All right. So our second misconception, I'm pretty excited about this. Our second misconception is investing is extremely risky. It's like gambling. I really love this one. It always makes me giggle. And I'll also hear this from people who literally will go gambling. I'm like, okay, so you actually will go to a casino and like gamble, but you won't invest. So here's the thing to know. If you are, how do I say this? If you're like making risky decisions, if you're being very like willy-nilly in how you're investing in the stock market, if you're not doing any research, if you're just kind of, especially if you're following the trends, if you're following popular advice and you're doing something like day trading, then yes, investing can be extremely risky. I know that like in movies and books, like it's sort of this we see this, I guess, romanticized version of stockbrokers and traders. And I mean there's lots of different versions of it, but like where you'll hear stories about someone who made like millions overnight. And we're like, oh my God, that's amazing. How do I do that? There's a lot of things that needed to go right in order for that to happen. Investing itself is not extremely risky. It is a little bit risky. I mean, there's a chance that you could select a stock and something goes like sideways and that company fails. Like that, of course, that's possible. But it's much more likely that provided you were intentional with the investment from the beginning and you were clear about your timeline and you did a little bit of homework. You don't need to go like super deep into it, but you did some homework to understand what you're doing. You've really done a lot to mitigate the risk. Okay. So the riskiest stock that I ever bought and I still hold because it's tanked and I don't need the capital, so I'm not going to actualize the loss. I wanted to invest in Allbirds when they did their IPO. So their IPO is the initial public offering. It's when a company goes from being a private company to be publicly traded. I wanted to be part of that. It was just something that was like a neat experience that I wanted to experience. So I did. I invested in the IPO. I think the share price was like $20 a share at the time. I haven't looked in a very long time, but like I feel like the last time I looked, the share price was somewhere at like $6 or $8 a share. So I knew going in that it was a risky investment. I also was very careful and I mitigated the risk. So I think I only invested like, I think it was like a couple $100. I didn't put thousands of dollars in. I didn't like put my entire retirement plan in there. No, I had a little bit of money that was available for me to take advantage of this. And so I did. I invested into it and now it's just sitting in my investment portfolio, kind of looking at me going, hey, I'm not making that much money right now. So that is the closest to gambling that I think we generally most of us will get. So as long as you're not like just don't follow the trends, don't follow popular advice. Um, really keep in mind, I know all of us know this logically, but it's really important for us to really understand this deeply that headlines, news, articles, they're all they what am I trying to say? They get their success by getting clicks and getting eyes on it, which means, because this is how the human brain works, we are drawn to scarcity and fear. So news agents, all news agents, there is not a single one that is exempt from this, will use fear and scarcity and specific language in headlines and in, I don't know what they're called, but like if you ever watch the news and they have that like sort of running ticker thing underneath, it's like, this is the latest thing this person said. It's always focused on fear and scarcity. So if you follow, like, just you hear someone go, Tesla's a perfect example because, oh my goodness, they're in the news all the time. And it's always fun to watch the stock prices change. Where, for example, like Tesla just had their annual general meeting, their shareholders meeting. And then afterwards, when that gets published, whatever parts get published, like stock prices will go through a dip or they'll go through some kind of like a change. And people, because all the experts, hear me when I say I'm using air quotes, all the experts are like, that's not possible, this isn't that, blah, 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 blah. And so the prices will dip. So my point being that if you're following news agencies to get your investment advice, I would really caution you. It's one thing to kind of keep an ear on things. I'm always keeping an ear on things, but really do your homework, A, before you invest, and B, especially before you decide to sell. You want to make sure that you're making a wise decision and not just like reacting to the market. Okay, that was number 2. Number 3. This one is for the ladies in particular. So if I have gents tuning into me today, this is also for you. It applies for everybody, but ladies, I want you to really hear this one. So the misconception is, I need to hire a professional to help me. I don't know enough to do it on my own. This one hurts my heart. This one, honest to goodness, like it makes me so sad when I hear, and I usually hear women talk about this. Now, granted, that's also because I'm generally like specifically asking women about it. But like even in my conversations with guys over the years, I very, very rarely ever hear any of them say anything like this. So I want to be ultra clear. If you're listening to this today, and this is not because like I'm amazing and like I'm so smart and I'm so blah, blah, blah. No. If you're listening to this, if you have been drawn to this podcast, if you have been drawn to catching these episodes, I already know that you're a very smart person. Okay? Because I don't draw people into my life, whether it's through my business, whether it's through my personal circle, it doesn't matter where it comes from. I do not draw people in who are unintelligent, uninformed people and who like really shouldn't be allowed to run around with money, right? Those people do not exist in my circle. So by the very nature of you hearing me today, that automatically means that I know you're an intelligent, well-informed person. Bar none. Period. Full stop. Now, the other thing I want you to hear is this, is no one will care more for your financial future than you will. So what happens when we hire a professional? And I don't want this to sound like you can never ever talk to a professional. Absolutely. Like work with financial advisors, chat with financial planning professionals. Like they have so much knowledge and insight to share. But if you're ever feeling like you're kind of being guided or you're very clearly being guided that you don't know enough and therefore you need to just trust them. Trust them. They're going to do the right thing for you. I guarantee they will not care more for your financial future than you will. And this probably goes without saying, but I'm a queen of saying the thing that goes without saying because I think that we just really need to blow the doors off these things. If you are ever having a conversation with someone who just keeps telling you that you can't do it and just to let them take care of it, run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Because anybody who would disempower you in that way is generally in it for their own selfish gain. And what that tells you very clearly is if they're going to do that to you from the very beginning, it is going to continue happening over and over and over and over again. This is true whether it's in terms of finances, but of course, like I'm sure lots of us are aware of this when it comes to relationships, whether it's romantic or friendship relationships, doesn't matter. Could even be co-working relationships. You are very smart. You have a very, very powerful supercomputer tucked in between those lovely little earlobes of yours. You are more than capable of figuring it out. And our first 3 episodes were really all about making just getting into the market much more approachable for you. So yes, leverage resources, 100% leverage resources, but do not think for a hot minute that you have to hire someone to help you because you just don't know enough. Okay. You can literally get started on your own with like a couple of dollars. It doesn't have to be wild. As your finances grow, as your wealth grows, as your goals begin to adjust, then yes, there's a lot. There's something to be said for working with a professional and gaining from their knowledge and wisdom. But I just want to be very clear, ladies in particular, you don't have to hire a professional to get started investing. You 100% can do this on your own. I guarantee it. All right. So conception number 4, misconception number 4. This one is I think I've said this is my favorite for all of them. There's a reason these are on my list, okay? Because I hear these a lot and they make my skin crawl. I'm like, fucking stop telling people that. So this is one that is like deeply personal to me. It is deeply personal to me. The misconception is I was supposed to start investing when I was 20. I am now 40, 50, 60, whatever, and I'm super behind. This is a load of absolute fucking garbage. Okay? It is absolute fucking garbage. Now, I'm going to share just a little bit of like my own personal story. So, I shared this earlier in the training today, and of course, you can catch the recap, so definitely get the replay on the All Access page. But I did not grow up with money, okay? I grew up in a rural community, in a farming community. I grew up on a farm. I started working when I was 11. By the time I was 12, I was working 6 days a week. I was doing like 10 to 12-hour days in the summertime, of course, because like during school, I'm at school. Like it wasn't like child labor where like I wasn't allowed to go to school. But I did not know anybody who worked as much as I did. And I've never stopped working. I don't know that I ever will, but like definitely I'm not doing 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week anymore. And I'm not doing the kind of work I was doing when I was 12. But when I was in my 20s, I remember this is when I really started to become interested in finances in a more, what I'll say, adult way, right? Up until that point, it was really like, how do I buy a car? How do I go out to buy, I don't know, shirts or whatever? And how do I put myself through university? And then in my 20s, so I started university when I was, let me think, I think I was 20, something like that, because I did a year of community college and then I took a year off. So I think I was about 20 when I started university. So I was already at the point in my life of like wanting to learn a bit more. And I remember, oh my goodness, I remember hearing from so many financial experts that if you want to become a millionaire, you need to start investing like when you're 18. And basically, and I'd heard a few of them say this, if you haven't started investing by the time you're 21, 25, 30, whatever, you're already behind. And that filled me with so much shame and guilt and disappointment and fear because I was in no place to be investing money. When I was in university, I did a very good degree. Like it was a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a really highly sought after degree and highly respected in the industry, but it was fucking expensive. It was one of the most costly degrees that I probably could have taken, like short of becoming like a friggin' doctor. Um, I not only had to pay for tuition and books, of course, I was in an architecture program. So I was buying modeling materials and we had a requirement that I can't remember if it was the first year, 1 year. I think the first year we needed to buy a camera and it had to be a specific kind of camera. So I couldn't just like go pick up a click and shoot camera. Like I think I had to buy a camera that like The minimum price was like $500 or $600. The second year, we were required to buy a laptop. And again, couldn't just be like a inexpensive laptop. It had a specific requirement. So I think my laptop, we started with a Mac, and we all know they're not the cheapest laptops in the market. So I was spending, I think in the end, my degree cost me around $40,000 just for tuition and like tools and materials, which is, I don't know where you've gone to university, but like very, very, very expensive when you compare it to like other university degrees. So I was also living on my own. I couldn't live with my parents because they both lived 2.5 hours away from campus, which is a long fucking drive and just not possible to do. Like 5 hours of driving every day. No, not going to happen. Um, and and I didn't have any scholarships, so I paid for university. I got a little bit of help from my parents, but I paid for most of it on my own. I was living on my own. I had a part-time job. I was barely making ends meet. This is the reason I'm telling you this long story about my university days. There was a period of time that I literally could not afford milk. I remember that very clearly. I remember the apartment I was living in. I can still see the avocado green countertops in as I was standing in the kitchen in tears. I had run out of milk. My fridge was basically empty. And I had no money for groceries, and it was like a week and a half until payday. So I literally just ate what was left in my cupboards. And to tell you, you get real creative at like making food when you just have to eat whatever's existing, right? Like it was cans of soup, and it was probably some tuna, and like I'm sure there was a box of Kraft Dinner in there. It wasn't anything that was fancy, but it was what I had. So at the same time as all of this is going on, I am hearing investment and financial experts say that if you haven't started investing, you're already behind, and you should start putting in like $100 a month, $1,000 a month. And I was like, I don't fucking have money to buy milk. How am I supposed to start investing? And um, that garbage. I'm just going to be very straight up. This is a load of garbage. That load of garbage kept me stuck for a very, very, very long time. I ended up investing much later than I ideally would have liked because I just had this fear that I was A, going to do it wrong, and B, that I was already behind. So how am I ever going to make up for lost time? Right? So I was in my 30s when I started to invest. I think it was in my very early 30s. So by some metrics, if you were older than that now and you haven't started, for some of you that might seem like a very early start, and for others, it's not. I was hearing a story from Mel Abraham just the other day on a podcast where he shared about this young man, and I always love it. It's almost always, I have yet to hear a story. Please tell me the stories if you know of one. Yet to hear about a woman doing this at any point. This young man who was 16 and was completely enamored with what Mel was teaching, and so said, "What do I do?" And so Mel gave him the advice, something about, I don't know if it was a Roth IRA, whatever it was that he was doing. So maxed out his yearly contribution. Came back the next year, said, "Okay, I did that. What do I do next?" And so did the same thing, maxed out his year, blah, 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 blah. Mel went on to say that by the time this guy was 18, even if he literally never invested another dollar, he was guaranteed to be a millionaire because time was on his side. So long as he doesn't touch the money and doesn't take it out, he's guaranteed to be a millionaire. And these are the kinds of stories that I was hearing in my 20s. And so I just felt more and more and more behind. I felt more and more like, what's the point? And how do I even get started? And it just, that all that low frequency energy really kept me down for a very long time. There's a reason that I'm really fucking passionate about sharing knowledge and insight about money with women in particular, and like daring daring to dive into the world of money and finances, even though it's not the easiest topic for people to necessarily want to hear about, right? I just refuse to sit back and allow something like that to happen to another person. So what I am going to tell you is that while, yes, There is something to be said for time being on your side. The earlier you invest, 100%, the more time you have to ride out the highs and lows. We've already talked about how the stock market does fluctuate. Yes, it does. So the earlier you invest, the more time you have to ride out those dips, the peaks and the valleys. And the more time you have for that investment to continue to grow. Because as we've already said, the stock market on average always gains. But just because you didn't start when you were 16 or 18 or 25 or 35, that does not mean that you can't start now. So there's a phrase that like I've heard a lot, and I'm sure you've heard it as well, but where it's the best time to start was yesterday, the second best time is now, right? And lots of people, most people that I know, will come up with all kinds of excuses for why now is not a good time. There's never going to be a right time. It's kind of like starting a business, having a baby, I don't know, losing weight. Like there's never a good time. There's always going to be reasons to like choose for your stuckness and stay where you are. And if that's what you want, then that's 100% fine. But my guess is if you're still listening to me, that's not what you want. So, yeah, you are not behind. You have not failed. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not dumb. You are not an idiot. You have been living life. You have been building a wealth of experiences and knowledge and really embodying wisdom. And now is just your time to go, okay, now I'm ready to lean into this kind of learning and to start building this kind of space. All right. I think we're 5. The fifth misconception, starting to just learn my words, is I need to have lots of money in order to start investing. And I really love that this is right after our starting investing when I was 20. Now, nobody told me this when I was in my 20s, or I would have started earlier. You do not need a lot of money to start investing. I hated that people would say to me, and when I say people, I'm going to say like financial experts, because nobody talked about money, like in my family or, which is hilarious because my mother is an accountant and my dad is an entrepreneur. Like, it just wasn't talked about other than the fact that we didn't have enough of it. That's all that ever went on. And then all the divorce talk, but we're not going to go there. All I heard was from financial experts and all saying like basically you needed to start with like $100 a month. And keeping in mind, I did not fucking have $100 of free cash a month. That was the dream. I was like, you know what? If I had $100 free cash, first of all, I'd make sure that like my phone bill got paid on time and I'd probably buy a couple extra groceries and maybe I would buy like a new shirt. Cause like this one is starting to like get holes in the elbows, right? Like it wasn't a thing. So you don't need a lot of money in order to start investing. You can literally start with like $5 a month. Okay? $5 a month. Like it doesn't have to be big. I want to be very clear that, because this is how my brain works. I'll hear someone say, well, you could start with $5 a month. I'm like, yeah, but like, what does $5 a month do? Like, really, come on. In a year, that's $60 a year. You can't tell me that I'm going to become a millionaire off of $60 a year. Well, I'm not telling you that you're going to become a millionaire off of $60 a year, but I am telling you that you can start as low as $5 a month. And the most important thing is that you're starting. That's literally it. That is the most important thing. So no, you do not need a lot of money to start investing. You don't need to be someone who's sitting on like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to even be someone that like would consider starting to investing. All of that is absolute garbage. I shared in, I think the last episode, but definitely one of the previous 3 about how like there's different ways you can start. You can start with just investing directly in the stock market. That one, depending on what you're looking at investing in, will likely have a slightly higher ceiling, right? Like there's not a lot of stocks that I know of that are $5 a stock. But I also shared that one of the early investments that I did was through my financial institution. They have a wealth management like department, I suppose, section of the institution where I chose a risk level. I shared this story already, but like chose a risk level and then like said what my monthly contribution would be. So if you have very little, like if you're like, fuck, I don't have $100 of free capital or $100 or whatever it is that you feel you need in order to start investing. If you can put together $5 a month, $10 a month, um, check in with your financial institution and find out. And if the institution that you bank with doesn't have something like that, which would kind of surprise me, I feel like most would probably have something. Do a little bit of research and you will find one, because it's it's investing in a fund. It's kind of like an ETF, but not really, because it's a totally different financial structure. The structure itself isn't necessarily important. The most important thing is that you have a look, especially for ones that are for like beginner investors. So you're not paying a ton of fees. You don't have to do a whole bunch of like work. There's different risk levels. The institution that I work with is really great at making that easy for me. Even though, like I said, it was a whole application process. But the point is, you can start with $5 a month. And I shared this on social media a couple weeks ago, and it was interesting, the uptake. I literally changed my life with $10 a month. 100%. I changed my life with $10 a month. Now, I wasn't investing that $10. It wasn't that I had like, I'm not like, I did $10 a month and now I'm a bazillionaire. No. What I did was I started putting $10 a month in savings. And I share the full story on the socials. So I definitely go check it out. But I changed my entire life. And I am not over exaggerating this, by saying that I changed my entire life with $10 a month, because up until this point, I had been feeling nothing but broke and depressed and fucking lost. And when I made the choice and I made the active decision to go, all of these investment and financial experts are just leaving me lost and broke, and I feel like I'm fucking spinning my wheels. I literally ignored everything that I had heard and I followed my gut. My gut has never, ever led me wrong. And my gut said, what if we just start saving $10 a month? I started putting $10 a month into a savings account. It wasn't a high interest savings account. It wasn't in a tax-free savings account. It wasn't any kind of sheltering. It was literally just a fucking savings account that was attached to my bank account. I had no plan for it. I wasn't like, okay, these dollars are going to have this job and these dollars are, no, I just was like, I can come up with $10 a month. $10 a month is not going to change my debt repayment plan that much. Okay? It's not going to be the end of the world if instead of putting $10 toward a credit card bill, I put $10 into a savings account. But it made a huge difference in terms of how I felt about and viewed money, because for the first time in my life, I could actually see money begin to grow. And that was fucking huge. So hear me when I say you do not need to start with a lot. Just starting, and literally, if you're doing like the investment account through a financial institution and you are starting with $5 a month, you will, I can hardly wait for you to see. You will see how good and empowering and fucking powerful it feels to all of a sudden see your money begin to grow. And it's not like you're gonna one day you're gonna get a statement in like 6 months. It's like, oh my God, look, you've got like $4,000 in there. Like, it's probably not going to happen if you haven't changed your contributions. But for the first time in your life, potentially, you're finally going to see money actually grow and start to, like, all these tools that people have been telling you about are going to be working in your favor. So that one is busted. You do not need a lot of money to start investing. All right. Our second last one is the stock market is confusing as fuck, and I'll need to spend hours every week following the markets. I honestly thought this was true for a very long time, because of course that was the model that I had been told. And I want to be ultra clear again for my lady listeners. I like that, lady listeners. We live in a world and a society that has been built for, by, and driven by men. And that's not to say that men are evil. That's not it at all. But men and women have very different ways of approaching things. Very different ways of approaching things. The way that we work, the way that our workday is structured, the timing of our workday, all of that is built off of a male energy and circadian cycle. All right? For my menstruating women out there, you know 100% what I'm talking about. right? Which is basically all of you, I'm going to guess. So my energy cycle is not the same as my husband's. It changes, okay? Our how we learn about things changes. So guys really get off. I understand. Don't send me hate mail. I understand that I'm very broadly generalizing here, but in a very broad sense, guys get off really diving into things. I watch my husband every day. He consistently watches videos on like Tesla, on building construction, on passive house, on energy conservation, like all these, and there it's interesting. I hear it in the background when I'm making my breakfast or whatever. Like it's interesting, but do I want to spend an hour, 2, 3 hours a day, whatever it is, um, like diving into those things? No. That holds no interest for me. Now, I spend the same amount of time that he would be spending like watching these videos. I'm reading books. I am diving into psychology. I'm diving into money. I'm diving into like how our brain works. Um, I'm getting into all those things because that fascinates me and I find that very interesting. And of course, it spills over into my work. But I'm not spending hours every week following the markets. Okay. You do not need to do that in order to begin investing. There are lots of set it and forget it options. There, there are lots of them. The one that we talked about of like going through your financial institution and having the like just monthly contribution, that is a set it and forget it option. Even if you're just keeping like a token ear on what's happening, which is, oh my God, it's so fucking easy. Like just talk with people, hear their thoughts, kind of like keep a very loose eye, I would say, on like maybe every now and again, like let's say you've invested in Tesla, for example. Maybe you do like a quick Google search of like what's happening in Tesla, or you just pull up Tesla on Yahoo Finance, right? Like you can kind of get a pulse check of what's happening, but you did the knowledge and research at the beginning. So once you've made the purchase and you've got your shares in your investment portfolio, unless something changes, and if you've invested in something that you're familiar with, you will know if something changes, then just let it go. You don't need to spend hours and hours and hours reading financial statements, like following all of the market trends, reading and listening to all the financial experts. If you like it, fucking get on it. Like, there's no reason that you can't. But I want for those of us, because so many of us are told that and women again in particular, we are shamed and we are made to feel less than, or told that we are naive if we aren't like following this to the letter. And that's absolute garbage. You will naturally, because you are an intelligent and informed person, you will naturally keep an eye out on things. You will pay attention to what's happening. You're not a fucking idiot, right? You're not sticking your head in the sand. The market can be very, very confusing, 100%. That's the whole reason why I put these 4 episodes together. But it doesn't have to be. You can actually simplify it a lot, which is the whole reason for these 4 episodes. Okay, let's get to our very last one. This one is lovely and it ties into our very first one. So the very first misconception that we talked about was when share prices fall, I'm losing money. So we're going to close out our little misconception episode and this series of 4 episodes on investing with this misconception. When the market is crashing, I should sell everything and protect my money. Don't do that. Okay, misconception busted. No. So I'm sure if you're interested in investing, which again, you wouldn't be listening to these series if you aren't, you've probably heard the saying buy low, sell high, right? Like everybody is saying buy low, sell high. That's always, I don't care who you talk, you could talk to like an 18-year-old on the street and say like, what's the one thing that you know about investing? And they would probably give you some version of like, well, you want to buy when it's inexpensive and you want to sell when the pricing is really good and strong, right? If you are selling everything when the market is crashing because you're like, I got to protect my money, you are doing the literal opposite. It's effectively buying high and selling low. And as we've already talked about, you only lose money if you sell and actualize a loss. That's the only time you lose money, okay? If you, or well, I suppose the alternative is like a company goes bankrupt and then disappears and like your shares just like vanish. Like I suppose that could happen, but like again, the chances of that happening very, very minimal. Don't allow the like 0.012%, I'm making numbers up possibility of that happening be the reason that you're not investing, right? Like it's so, if you've been intentional and you've done just a little bit of homework, you do not need to do a ton, right? Just a little bit, invest in what you know, then you're unlikely to have that experience where like somehow the company goes completely belly up and your shares disappear. But what happens when the market is crashing, we already talked about the natural ebb and flow of the market, natural market cycles. So a market correction is a natural cycle. And on average, it happens roughly, I think, every 7 to 8 years. So it's very normal. It's not like panic and like pull all your hair out and set the world on fire. No, it's very normal. So do your very best while you're still paying attention to what's happening, but remind yourself consistently of your investment goals. If you did need that cash, like let's say you needed that cash in like a year or two, and maybe you don't think that you can ride out the dip, well, you have a choice to make on whether or not you decide to sell, but you can't go back in time. So if you sell, you discover that you've lost a bunch of money and then 6 months later it recovers and it goes higher than it was before you sold, you might be kicking yourself, right? So this is why it's really good to make the decisions before you make the investment. Decide like how long you're going to stay in that stock. What is that money to be used for? Again, I cover all of this inside the Building Fempires program, which again is opening up for enrollment on Friday. And it's not, I don't just talk about investing. Like the Building Fempires program is all things money. I have a module specifically dedicated to financial tools. We dive into things like loans, lines of credits, credit cards, credit reports. We, of course, investing, which I've talked about already. That's just one module. Okay. And I've got 7 fucking fantastic modules inside the program. That's just one module that's just like demystifying and simplifying financial tools for you. But inside the program, I talk about how like it's really important to be very clear with your intentions on your investment decision. So if unless you're in your investment and your intention was like, okay, I'm going to be selling it, like, let's say you've decided, I don't know, November of 2024, that's when you needed to sell this because you needed to leverage the cash. And it's like March of 2024 and you're like, oh God, things are going sideways. Like the market is really starting to dip. If I sell now, then I potentially reduce my risk of further losses. So that's a possibility, right? But if you've made the decision to be there in it for a while, fucking let the money sit. Because otherwise, the idea of like protecting your money by selling it when the market is crashing, if that isn't part of your investment timeline, you're actually potentially like putting your money at a greater risk because you're drawing it out, right? So it no longer can like ride the wave. And you might end up regretting it a few years later, assuming that the stock bounces back. Okay, this has been a really, really, really juicy, I think it's been a really juicy episode. I hope you've friggin' loved it. If you have, or if you're still here with me, first of all, thank you for being here with me. I love having you around. But I would love to hear, like, take a screenshot of you listening to this episode, share it out on the socials, tag me. My handle on Instagram and TikTok is the same. They are both at Amy Van Meel. I think I only have the Instagram handle linked inside the show notes, but it's the same. It's my name, right? That just rhymed. That wasn't intentional. But share it out. I really want to hear like what are your key takeaways? Was there something in particular that like really blew your mind or completely opened up your perspective or shifted your perspective? Like I really want to hear what you thought about not just this particular episode, but this whole series, and of course any episode that's on the podcast. I really want to hear your thoughts and your takeaways. And that's all I have to say about that. So, reminder as we close out our time together, and I prepared to have a glass of water because I'm starting to get a headache because I've been talking for an actual hour. Um, Reminder that the live training is going on right now. If you're listening to this episode anywhere near when it is dropped, the live training is going on right now. It's June 26th, 27th, 28th of 2024, in case you're listening to this in the future. And 10 a.m. Mountain Standard is when I'm going live every day on Instagram with the training. And if you have missed today or any of the days, you can get access to those replays until July 3rd. So once, what am I trying to say here? Stay with me as I collect my thoughts. On Friday, which is June 28th, enrollment will open again for Building Fempires. And it's not open for enrollment all the time. It's been a little while. It's been about, I don't know, six to 8 weeks, I think, since the last enrollment period opened up. So enrollment is opening up on Friday, June 28th for Building Fempires. The cart closes on July 3rd. And when the cart closes on July 3rd, the all access page will be removed because the replays will be added into the Building Fempires program as a bonus. So if you don't catch the live training, and for some reason you don't catch the replays, then the only other way you'll get access to the training that I'm sharing, which is, I'm not kidding when I say it's really, really good. The only way you'll get access to that training is to enroll in the Building Fempires program. And the last thing I will say about that, which I do a little bit at the risk of you might be hearing this while we're in the training, the investment price for Building Fempires is going to be going up after this launch. So when cart closes on July 3rd, the price that I am offering the program at this time round will never be seen again. It's going to be going up. And the reason it's going up is I am preparing to add in a ton of really powerful, valuable content. So even more. So right now, the Building Fempires program is 7 modules plus a whole giant resource section. Each of the modules, including the introduction module, so I guess technically there's 8. Each of them have workbooks, which are really, really powerful shifting tools. Okay, so I don't put anything in this program that's just extra or fluff or just time consuming stuff. Okay, if it's in there for a very, very good reason, because it's intended to help you shift and create a brand new reality when it comes to, in particular, to money and financial abundance in your life. But of course, you can apply these learnings to virtually any area of your life. But what I really have felt called on my heart to add into is additional learning on, for example, freedom in a broader sense, but also time freedom, decision freedom. I'll unpack that further inside the program. I want to add a section, and I say section because I don't know if it's going to be a module or if it's going to be a couple of modules. I'm not quite sure, but I want to add one about confidence and really building our confidence. And then one on time. I have been really playing with time in the last few months, and I've been learning a lot and have shifted completely my, what I would say, former attachment to the clock. And oh my goodness, it has been a game changer for me. So I want to share this knowledge. I think that this is so unbelievably valuable for all of us, for women in particular. We're inundated with lots of garbage and stories. But all of that is to say that is coming, which means by the next time that enrollment opens for the Building Fempires program, either those will already be in the program or will be finishing up, but the pricing will never be the same. So you are getting a huge deal if you enroll with me when cart opens this week. And if you wait and you're 100% allowed and welcome, and if that feels right to you, don't enroll if it doesn't feel right to you, because then it's not the energy to do it. But if you've been very curious about money and you really want to change how you experience money in your life and your understanding of money and build really solid financial confidence, which I promise and guarantee you will positively impact the entire rest of your life. Okay. I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that just like as a marketing tactic. When we build our knowledge and confidence with money and finances, it impacts all of our life for the rest of our lives. 100%. So if that sounds interesting to you, I've kind of launched into a sales pitch, haven't I? If that sounds interesting to you, the Building Empires program is opening up for enrollment, and it's never going to be this price again. So cart opens on June 28th. Cart closes July 3rd. I would love to have you join me for the free training because, of course, it's free, super accessible for you. But again, those replays are only available till July 3rd, and then it all gets tucked nicely and juicily into the Building Empires program. Okay, my loves, I could talk to you forever, and it's been a while that we've been sitting here together. I am going to sign off. I am sending you so much love. I am really, really grateful that you are here with me, whether it's just for this one episode or you are a regular listener. I love and appreciate you being here with me. If you have not yet, I would really love and appreciate if you could leave a review of this podcast on your fave podcast listening platform. I'm a Spotify girl, but I do have a few podcasts that I need to listen to on Apple. But yeah, leave a review of the podcast, and definitely put a shout out on the socials for me. That one is 100%. It has nothing to do with reviews, but it feels good, right? I want to hear from you. Okay, with that, I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and yeah, I can't wait to see you on either in the live training this week or inside the Building Empires program or in next week's episode. All right, my loves, bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following @AmyVanMeal or visit my website at amyvanmeal.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.